What's going on, family? Welcome to the My Life God's Way podcast. We back for another hitter, episode 3, Fatherhood, the ladies' perspective. Tonight, I have 3 beautiful ladies that's with me that to share their experiences with their dad and either has it has influenced them by being a parent or a daughter if they don't have a child, and just the different experiences that they went through that actually shaped them to be who they are. But from just the fatherhood perspective on how does it feel to have a good dad or a bad dad in your life and how that shaped who they are. So I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. I'm gonna start with my wife, if I don't want to be in the doghouse tonight.
Good choice.
I'm the wife. No, my name is Shannon. Oh, are we supposed to say like a little synopsis?
Nah.
Long walks on the beach. Just in case I hate things.
Oh my god. Okay, next we got Ellie B.
Hi, I'm Leo. Nice to meet you.
Hey, it's Court.
And we got Courtney Gizo in the house.
What it do?
Tonight I want you all to engage in conversation with us. Hey, Europe. I see we got some viewers on here already. Say what's up to the viewers. Say what's up to the viewers. I want you all to engage in conversation with us. If you have any questions for these ladies, please don't hesitate to ask. The key and the goal of this podcast is to actually help somebody, to help somebody through real life experiences. One thing I do know is that everybody's going through something, and we're not always going to go through the same thing, but we all have a story to tell.
Right.
And by us telling our story, we may be able to help somebody else to heal and to grow or to not make the same mistakes that we made.
Right.
So let me just actually say this. We're going to reverse it this time. So I started with my wife, bringing it in. So let's start with Courtney.
Hey.
Just kind of give us like a little bit of your story, like who you are, what do you do, and just if you have a relationship with your dad or if you don't, and just a little bit of that experience.
Okay. So again, I'm Courtney. I am a program manager for a production company, and we do HBCU Quiz Bowl tournaments.
Oh,
I'm black. Yes, all black. But yeah, my dad has been in my life all of my life,
Okay.
but more of a financial father, not an emotional father.
mm-hmm.
So wasn't in the home, but was always present financially. More so for a daughter's perspective, what I needed more, of course, was emotional. But I did have about 6 father figures that kind of filled that void for him. So I wasn't necessarily without.
Okay.
I do have a child now. He's 1.5.
My boy, shout out to Jackson.
Jack is true.
Jack. And he really is. He
Jack
really
Jack.
is Jack.
He Jack for sure.
Because when he came over to the house, bro could not sit still. I was like, this is my guy. He cannot.
Fly.
Right.
He's crazy.
Right, he cannot sit still. Now, let me ask you something real quick. You said you had about 6 father figures. Who are those 6 father figures?
So I have 2 sets of godparents.
Okay.
So I have 2 godfathers. I have my mom has 3. Well, she has like 5 best friends, 3 of which are men.
Okay.
So I had 3 of those, and then my uncle, who is my mom's brother-in-law,
Okay.
had him too. So literally from the beginning, I've had those. I don't know how many that is. 2, 3, 5, 6. All right. But yeah, so I've had them my entire life.
Okay.
So from the beginning, it wasn't necessarily a I'm without a daddy,
Right.
because he was there.
Right.
But the emotional part of what I needed from the beginning, I got from my uncles, and still to this day, I still lean towards them.
Okay.
And then I think I want to say about when I was 15, my grandfather came into my life, my dad's dad. So
Okay.
I got him, and then so around 15, since 15 to now, 16 years later, show my age. So I've had that emotional connection with him too.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I've had them. They've been here.
Okay. So we're gonna touch back on that. Having a father that's financially there but not emotionally there. And I want you to elaborate on why you feel like the emotional part is important. LEB or Leo, I don't know what you want me to say, But give us a little bit of your backstory and just your relationship with your dad.
Okay. So I'm a communications and event specialist. That's what I do. I have 2 kids. My boo, Malachi and Scarlett.
My babies.
My babies. I had them very young. So for me, with everyone else's children are really small, and mine are, 10 and 11 now?
They grown.
Right.
11?
Okay, I had them real young. As far as my relationship with my father goes, so my father was neither in the picture, and when he was, it wasn't good. So I come from an abusive household. I come from a drug household. I come from the hood of the ghetto.
Okay.
So my experience was always very different compared to everyone else's.
Right.
And it took me to grow up, even at 13, when I met everybody, when I was a kid,
Right.
I would come over to everyone's house and I would see the difference. There was such a significant difference between everyone's home, and I started to learn that everything that I thought was normal was not. Right. And over the years, I've definitely had to do a lot of work to understand what a normal household is, what it is to have a normal parent or a normal father figure in your life. And I'm a single mom now, right? So I didn't even have that support when it came to the kids. So trying to figure out what it was to be a woman, to be a mom, because I had them so young, and then to be a father and to raise that was definitely very difficult. But I will say that it has been the most rewarding experience I've ever had in my life.
Definitely.
Okay. That's good. That's good. So we're going to touch back on your dad just growing up in that environment. And if you don't mind, I want you to share with like some people, some things that you feel comfortable with.
That's fine.
You know, some of the things you went through. If you don't feel comfortable, it's fine. But who knows? You know, something you say may help that little girl or that teenage girl that's going through that struggle that say, you know what, how can I move past this?
Right.
You know, I know my dad is not in my life for the right reasons,
Right.
but how do I move past this? How do I look past what I'm going through with my dad and who he is in my life to look at the bigger picture?
Right, exactly.
That, you know, I don't need you per se to be in my life to be an awesome individual.
Right.
So, you know, I want you to touch back on that in a little bit. Now, last but certainly not least, this lady over here in the corner, and she is my wife.
Okay, so yes, I'm his wife. My name is Shannon. So I grew
You
up.
better tell him, girl.
I grew up with my dad in the home. My parents were married. For the majority of my life, they divorced. Well, I was an adult by the time they divorced, so I don't really consider it traumatic. Like most people's divorce stories. But yeah, my dad was there. He was very present, active in our life. I've just always been very independent. So my relationship with my parents, well, both of them, but my dad for this conversation, has always just been more or less like, okay, you're my parent. I have to listen to like your rules, but I got it for the rest.
Right. Okay, cool. Now, I want to ask Leo this question. Now, you said that growing up, your dad, you essentially was in a very traumatic household. You know, something that you feel comfortable with sharing. What is something that you went through that you wish like nobody would have to experience as a girl?
So I'm very open and I'm very honest about everything that I have experienced, only because I feel like I had to be in order to overcome and to learn from everyone else. I actually lived with Shannon when I was a kid growing up, even when I had Malachi and Scarlett. So she knows. But when I was a child, my father used to run nightclubs. He used to own a few. He was very successful in LA. We had a really nice house. We lived great for a little bit. And then by the time I was like 6, he started using drugs heavily. And we lost a lot because, 1, we financially couldn't keep up with it. And then 2, he would, disappear for days at end. And then he would come home and he would disappear with objects from our home. And so that's how it went. And then the abuse started. And it wasn't just from him, but it was from his friends, the people that he used to work with. And it became physical and sexual abuse as a kid. I was 6. And it didn't register, like what was happening. So again, this idea of normalcy is what I had experienced. And it wasn't until I was like maybe 10, 11 that I started to just like watch and really pay attention as to everything that's happening and how my friends, when I go visit them, what their houses are like, and it wasn't like mine.
So let me ask you something. So you said something about it later became, you know, like a sexual abuse type of thing. You know, you have a daughter. What is that conversation like with your daughter and men? You know, because I can imagine that there's a guard. I can imagine just from the jump that there's a guard because you went through that traumatic experience, that there's a guard put up that you're going to protect her.
Right.
Whatever come and what may.
I think for me, because of my personality and who I am, and by the time I was 17, I had my first kid, I had to learn what it was to be strong, to be independent, to be fierce, and to not stop, period.
Right.
So that developed my character and how I chose to be a parent. So the moment I found out I was pregnant, it was like, no matter what happens from now on, I will do everything in my power to ensure that my child, boy or girl, I didn't even know, and it was my son at the time because my son's older, that they would never experience anything that I had experienced from my household, from my father to my mother, because I had confronted my father when I found out I was pregnant with my son about everything, and he literally spit on me. And he told me to leave his house because his friends loved him too much. And they would never do that to me.
So he essentially took the word of a friend, and we're going to put quotes on the sides of that.
Right.
We're going to put quotes on the side of that.
A strong quote.
So he essentially took the word of a friend over his daughter.
Correct.
You know, how did that make you feel?
I wasn't surprised.
You wasn't surprised because of his...
Because of how I grew up. I grew up with men around me 24/7 that looked at me like an object, right? It was always, oh, you're light-skinned, you're pretty, because my siblings were mixed. We're all mixed. Okay. And I'm the lightest. And so it was, oh, you're so beautiful. Come here, come sit on my lap. And as a child, I'm just like, okay, right? Not knowing that all these things are happening. It was always a favoritism that I was showed, a niceness, a kindness. And again, as I became a preteen, I realized that it was wrong. And so I internalized that as I'm ugly. I'm not pretty. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve love. I don't want it. I don't want attention. I don't want nothing from nobody. And so for me, I grew up angry. But I knew what I needed to do to get out of the situation. And my only answer was like, go to school, get an education, go to college, leave, right? As soon as I hit 18, I was like, that's my goal, right? Be free of everything. But then, like I said, I got pregnant with my son, and I feel like in the beginning I repeated a cycle. And it wasn't so much about the sexual abuse or anything like that, because I would never allow that ever. Right. Like I'd end up in the news. No, we need. Hold on, okay? Hold on. But it was an abusive relationship that I was in with my kid's father, and I stood because for me, I wanted to give my children what I didn't have. Right? He came from a stable home. Right. He came from a good family, quote unquote, of what I saw from everyone else, of my friends, that was considered normal. Okay. So I was like, my kids need that. I have to stay. I have to give it to them, right? Yeah. I owe it to them. But by the time I was, 6 months pregnant with Scarlett, I had left. And then I went back. And then I left again, and Shannon was there.
Oh, when you came back to LA?
When we came back to LA.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because I was in New York.
She was trying to hide from us.
Okay. Running.
Listen, okay.
And let me say this real quick. there's individuals in the chat section that are saying, you know, they're grateful for your transparency.
I appreciate that. I really do. And I want to say to everyone, the reason why I'm so transparent over the years is because I have learned from everyone else to share.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't tell any of them that any of this was happening. The only person that knew about even the abuse as a teenager was Paris. It's one of our group friends. We're all a group of friends. And it was only her because I would run to her. Like, literally, I would call her at 1 o'clock in the morning and saying, I can't come home. You know, and I'm 14.
You were also her friend first.
Correct.
So
before I met them.
Yeah. So I mean, that was more of a childhood.
That makes sense.
We're more
Yeah.
a teenage.
Correct. Yes. And then as I grew up, I got closer to everyone else. And throughout all those years, I never spoke to my father. Never did. But then when I moved back recently to California, I was tricked. I was tricked into it. My sister, she wanted me to come over to the house, and she was like, oh, you know, everybody's here. We haven't seen you in all these years, because I was gone.
Right.
Years. Okay? I was gone like 13 years. I was gone.
New York was life.
New York was life,
Right.
okay? But I'm grateful for it because I put myself through college. I got an education. I bettered our lives. I bettered their lives. I got away from all of the chaos and drama here. And I really isolated myself and worked on myself to be the parent that they need and deserve. And the woman that I needed to be. And that I felt like I deserved to be. You know?
You grew during that as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you essentially were a teenage mom.
Right.
So you had to grow within yourself as well as being a mother at the same time.
Exactly.
Which is hard.
Right.
It's very hard, especially when you've had that traumatic experience. You have to kind of learn through that.
Right.
Like, we know now, like, oh, therapy rocks. Yeah.
But that wasn't always the case.
No, that wasn't.
You
It's
know,
very
and-
taboo.
Right.
And when
There
you're
was
18, you're
like,
not thinking about going
you're
to
not
therapy.
thinking about
No.
You're like,
You're
you
not
know
thinking
what?
about
My
therapy.
therapy is at the club.
Yeah.
I'm about to go. And then it's like,
The
oh, shoot.
club.
That was then.
But then it's like, oh man, I got this kid, so I can't go to the club.
Exactly.
Right.
And I can't
Right.
be sitting up here turning up the bottle
Exactly.
because
Exactly. I have a child. I
Exactly.
have two
and they got a
children.
drink.
Yeah.
Like,
And I like watched them from afar because again I was in New York, so they were all still together. And from a distance, I'm watching them go to college. I'm watching them party. I'm watching them do all the things that I can't do.
Right. Because I was
Because
definitely twerking on
You
tables.
sure
girl.
was.
No.
You sure was.
Now,
But I was
I'm
working 2 jobs trying to live.
now I'm gonna put a pin. I'm gonna just put a pin right there. I want you to think about something. I'm gonna come back for your answer, but I want you to think about this. Do you feel like you got pregnant with your first child, you know, because you were looking for some form of love,
without a doubt.
unconditional, that you didn't get from your father? But I want you to elaborate on that, but I want you to let it resonate and think about it for a second. The podcast will be about an hour, you all. So if you can hang on here with us and share it so that somebody else can see this and they may be, you know, healed or, you know, whatever it is that they need, they may grow and get it from this podcast. This question here is for my wife, and I'm coming to you because I had a question. I thought about this all day. So being that you did have your father in your life and he did have a major impact on your life, do you feel like you had a different set of expectations from me because you did have a father in the home? And so what is it that you feel like there's certain things that you just require from me as a husband because that's something you saw in your dad?
I would say yes. I mean, my dad was definitely, we had like a, you know, storybook house. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad went to work. So I was used to that growing up. Like my mom didn't work really. I think, oh gosh, I was already out of high school before she started working. So.
Honestly. Because I remember
home all the time.
Right.
Which, I mean, was looking back, it was good because it did afford us a lot of things that we were able to go to and do because of that. But definitely because my dad was so, I feel like it was twofold. My dad is very traditional in, you know, roles of the house. And the kind of person I am, I always rebelled against that. Like, you're not about to tell me to go clean the kitchen or wash the dishes. I got 3 brothers. Their hands work just as good as mine. Like, that was my mindset growing up. So I definitely was that kind of child. Like, he would be like, oh, well, you and your sister should go. And I would tell my mom, like, why we got to do it. Like,
Oh, so you going back dry snitching. Basically.
But then I also am very with the whole like with taking the trash out, or I mean I don't have a dog, but if I had a dog, walking the dog,
Right,
like,
They ain't gonna kill these spiders.
Right.
yeah, like these are things where I'm like I'm used to my dad doing, or you know my brothers, my dad having them do it. Not that I'm saying that women can't, but I definitely am a believer. Like if my trash can's full and like you here, you should be taking it out. Right, I shouldn't be taking the trash out unless you sick or something. Like,
Right.
So all I got to do is take out the trash.
no,
You thought that was no.
Hey, I'm just-
and then I mean,
I'm just
even
trying to get
from
to a
the
consensus.
aspect of like, you know, like being a breadwinner, so to speak. I'm not opposed to working. I'm not really like I don't really consider myself a stay at home, because even I feel like if I was at home, I'd be still doing 500 other things.
Right.
But I definitely, I think for me, it's more or less I just like knowing that you for this conversation can take care of like the house if I were to be like, think I might want to, you know, sit out for a month or a year.
Right.
Right.
So I do like that aspect, but I mean, I think because my dad was so traditional in his thinking that, and I was just very like, I'm independent. Like, I want to do what I want. Like,
Right.
so a lot of the things I don't think I picked up per se, like, oh, I have to have this, There are some things, but yeah, seeing it, there are some things where I know, like, I expect that because that's what my dad did. Like, you know, he took the trash out and he, you know, made sure, like, you know, well, he made sure the major bills were paid. My mom was responsible for paying the other stuff, but that sometimes I'd be like, ma'am, you don't even go to work. Why are we forgetting?
Right. Okay. I mean, and
yeah.
naturally, I can respect those requirements. I don't feel like that's much to ask, but I feel like that's important to know.
Right.
Well, yes.
Because, you know, I feel like it's a difference when you get in a relationship with a woman that didn't have a dad growing up. And I've said this time and time again. A dad is a girl's like first real boyfriend.
Correct.
First love.
That's her first love, for real. Like she is that. Her dad is her
It's your
world.
example.
It's
Yeah, it is.
the
It
example
really is your
of
example.
Or I should say your blueprint.
right, exactly. And you know, and to be honest, I feel actually bad for some men because when they come into a relationship with a woman that did not have their dad, there's so many voids you have to fill because her dad didn't do it.
Yeah.
Or he did do certain things, but there wasn't good things.
Right.
You know, so you're
So
literally
that blueprint is different.
the blueprint is completely different. Now, I'm going to ask you this, Courtney. Now, you're actually engaged to my friend. Shout out to Mo. Hopefully he watching. He better be watching.
Right.
Now, let me ask you. So you said growing up, your dad was the financial dad. So he makes sure you have money, but he did not supply you with that emotional connection that you needed.
No.
Let me ask you, do you feel like with Maurice, you have to, do you feel like you're getting that emotional connection with him now that you didn't get with your father?
It was a learned behavior.
It was a learned
It was
behavior.
a learned behavior because you also have to look at their upbringing and how they were
Okay.
raised. So his father was in his home. So
Right.
me learning that, okay, I have to, and this is, I guess, just for anyone. I'm an only child. So me, like Leo said, going to our friends' homes, and they were all with siblings. Every last
Right,
one
right.
of them. So it's just like, oh, this is different. Oh.
Right.
If I need a sibling, I'm coming over your house.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you know, So, I mean,
Okay.
me having that experience, even with him, he's an only child too. So
You
I had
double
to,
negative.
Oh, yeah.
Both.
So we like our space. We
Right,
like
right,
our
right.
space. So, I mean, we can be in a room together and not speak and be straight. It's wonderful. But I had to learn his way of communication as
Okay.
well as him learning mine. So me having to we had to teach each other.
Okay.
Like, because he's more of a, let's talk about it now. And I'm more of a,
I am
I'ma
that.
sit on it.
I need to. I know I need to get myself to a place where I can say it right.
Yes.
Because I don't want to say it
I gotta
wrong
focus.
and it goes into
Right.
a whole nother
Yes.
direction.
Yes.
You know.
So
that-
I had to learn that. I
Okay.
had to learn it. So it was definitely different, but I do think that there are a lot of traits that he does have of my father.
I was just about to ask
Yes.
you. Do you?
But it's tricky because my first love were 6 people.
Okay.
It wasn't my father, but yet it was my uncles and my godfathers. So I learned to love each and every one of them in different ways, and to who can I go to for heartbreaks? Who can I go to for certain things? Unfortunately, 2 of them have passed, which were 2 great pillars.
Right.
But
But they definitely left you with something.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
the key.
And that's the thing. It's just like you built that foundation, and just trying to figure all of that out. But I definitely think that Mo does have, I'll even say 8, because of my grandfather and my father too. He has all of their traits, and it's tricky because it's like, oh, what traits do you got? What's going on?
Who am I getting today?
Right. But I mean, it definitely he has the grind of my godfathers. You know, he has the funniness of one of my godfathers. He has the sports oriented and ambition of another one. You know, so it's just like he has all of them put together. And a lot of times, do I think like, are you all of them put together? Is that why I'm attracted to you? Like, what's happening here?
Right.
It definitely feels like, he does have traits of my father.
Okay.
They're not the bad traits, which is good, but they still come. They're still there. They're still there. And as an adult with, now a child, I do want to say that, even though my father was a financial father growing up, he has tried to be that emotional father now. I feel like, a lot of times daddies,
them grandkids.
It's the grandkids.
Talk about them grandkids.
Yeah, the grandkids get away with way more stuff.
They are the relationship is different.
It's even the relationship.
That's what I'm saying. They bring out a whole different side to the man.
They try to get some
grandkids are many.
Did she say many things?
They are. They don't even know that they
honestly,
are.
They really do.
They see their little fat little faces and they be like, oh my gosh, I gotta get my whole life together.
They
and
change.
you be like, I was here for X amount of years. And my little bug eyes didn't make you get it together.
I really had to check myself on that because it was a okay, I see you trying, but 30 years ago, where was we? So and it was just like, you know what? At that time, you did what you could, and I have to allow you to be in that space. I can't say like, hey, this is what I needed from you. I mean, I've said it a million times, but it's just you can only say it for the room that they have. He gave me what he had at that moment. He was not emotionally available for me. He had another family. I have a brother that's a month and a half older than me. So to have that, you have to separate. A lot of times you have to understand that men are still human. So they still have They still have their moments. They're prideful. They make mistakes. We have to acknowledge that. And as a child, I will say, I was like, screw all of that. You tried it. You the adult. I'm the child. Figure it out. And I've written the letters. I've said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. This is what I need. And after a certain time, it's just like, okay, as an adult and through therapy. Lots of therapy. I have really kind of seen like, okay, you loved me the way that you could, and the way that you had in that moment. You couldn't love me past your capacity. So you gave me what you either had growing up, or you gave me what you could in that moment. Now I required much more. Now, where does that stand? Where does that stand from the child requiring much more and the father not able to give? That's where, or the daughter requiring much more. So that's when, thankfully, I have all of my village come in, and they only 3 of them have daughters. The other ones have sons or none at all. So I was either their first, or they knew how to have daughters because they knew how to talk to daughters. They knew how to treat them differently. And having conversations with my grandfather, he would say like, no, your son is different than your daughter. You have it's a different communication, it's a different love, it's a different type of feeling, and you have to understand that. Now, whether my father understood that or not, I don't know. But I do feel like now that Jackson is here, he is stepping into his supreme fatherhood.
Right.
But,
Okay.
But I'm not. My daily fight is not taking that away from him, because right now you're trying.
Okay.
So
Right.
I'm gonna let you try.
Right.
You don't hit it all the time on the mark.
Right.
But we're not gonna
But
count
he's-
that. We're
but
gonna
he's
let
trying.
it go. We're
But
gonna
you're
let it flow.
trying. But
Right.
you're trying.
Right.
And again, the separation between the two. I had that conversation. You will not do what you did to me to him.
Correct.
Because I control my son's life. I control who is in it, who isn't. You can't choose today you are, tomorrow you're not. We're not doing a disappointment. You're not gonna learn disappointment from a father, from a grandfather, from a father figure. That's out. But I do feel like the situations and anything that we had growing up, that's completely different than my child's relationship with his grandfather. And I want to make sure that is separate at all times, because that's not your situation and that's not your fault that we are where we are.
Right.
So,
Right.
you starting brand new.
Right.
That's, and he's been an exceptional grandfather. And am I a little salty? Absolutely. The ocean is Pacific, okay? But
Not Pacific.
it's like, okay, I see you. But, 30 years later, trial and error. You kind of can, figure it out. And, I definitely, I'm grateful for my father figures, because I don't know where the heck I would be.
Right. And that's but
That's a
at
real statement.
least you acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Because whether it's a mom or a dad, both factors, both parents play a key role
Absolutely.
in our lives.
Absolutely.
There's certain, and let me say this. I know we make the statement and a generalization that men and women, we can do whatever we put our minds to. Don't get me wrong, I agree with that. But there are just certain things that a woman can't teach a man,
Right.
and vice versa.
Right.
Like me,
Right.
I don't have a daughter yet,
Yeah.
but I know that there's gonna be. I'm just saying, I know there's gonna be some things that I'm gonna have to allow her to teach me.
Right.
I can have my mom, my grandmother, everybody in my life.
Right.
But there's just certain things because she connects with the daughter
Yeah.
on a different level.
Yeah.
Because literally she's a mini her.
Yeah.
So I have to allow myself to acknowledge that and accept that, what, even as a father, I can't teach my daughter everything.
No.
And it's crazy because even with our son, there's gonna be things that she's gonna have to teach him that I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's gonna be a different connection.
Oh, for sure.
I've already seen it. I mean, he's only 18,
Yes.
18 months in.
Listen.
Like,
Oh, just wait till
Valentine's Day.
5.
oh
Yes.
my God. Like, it's crazy.
6,
like,
7, 8, 9, 10. I'm
it's
telling
certain
you, it doesn't
things
stop.
that
It
it's
doesn't
like,
stop.
Oh, okay.
Right.
You don't want mommy right now?
Right. Like,
Right. Because
Inside
bro,
joke. You don't even know what your insides are.
right.
Stop it.
Right.
But definitely, I feel like, and just to piggyback on what you said about that abusive household, I didn't have it, but my mom did. So she raised me, ain't nobody ever, So
Right,
I
right.
didn't have a sleepover till I was 16. I didn't
Oh,
have,
wow.
Mom didn't
Right.
date.
We were the sleepover.
Yeah.
Right.
And it went, right. And it was, y'all
Wait, your
was a
mom let you
sleepover.
go to her house?
She
Listen.
was over hours.
We
like,
went. We could only go to each other's house.
Right.
That was it.
It was like
That
that
was
was the
it.
circle. That was it.
I didn't have sleepovers. I didn't go. If you had a mama and daddy, or a daddy and a brother in your household,
Right,
I
any
for
man.
sure wasn't coming.
Right.
Like that's just I was out.
Right,
Okay, we just grew up differently. And my mom
Yes.
didn't date when I was young.
Yeah.
She didn't do any of that. And if she did date, they never came home. She didn't trust anyone.
Right.
So my uncles were the only ones. And to this day, I think I sat on one of them laps. Like, I don't ever,
Yeah.
it's never been one of my things because
Right.
my mom was just like, no, that's out.
Right.
We had code words. We had, certain situations. Hey, you know what your parts are?
No, for
Don't
real.
touch them parts.
Every
For real.
day.
We got
And
parts.
it's very necessary to have
Yeah.
those conversations.
Right.
Because, not only are there, male predators, there's female predators,
Yes.
predators come in both forms.
Correct.
Right.
They're just like I had to actually talk to some colleagues and some, friends of mine, and I had to, they were talking, they was making a statement talking about, men and hitting women and blah, blah, blah. And I was telling him, I said, look, I'm gonna be candid with you. You will be surprised how many men are in abusive relationships.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's just
Like-
taboo. Like people don't
like-
speak about it.
No, seriously, like
Right.
there are a lot of men, and it's not the fact that they're in these abusive relationships because they're weak or something like this,
No,
but
it's
they've been
different.
taught that
Yeah.
you don't put your hands on a woman
Right.
for nothing.
Right.
No matter what
Right.
happens, you leave and you walk away. So they
Right.
sit there and they feel like they have to take the abuse. And let me tell you something.
And that emotional abuse is
Verbal abuse is way
It
worse
absolutely is.
than
It
physical,
sticks with you.
because
Yes.
physical abuse you can heal from,
Okay.
but verbal abuse. My words is all chopped up. Right now. Aiden's throwing me off. I promise you. Verbal abuse, right? Verbal abuse
You just want some water.
is it can do something to your core
Absolutely.
as a person.
Without-
Like I said,
Without a doubt.
like that old saying, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words and
Words hurt,
man,
child.
please,
I still remember
Please.
the bullying.
words hurt."
Yeah.
Cause
I've
you
never
gonna
gotten
heal
hit.
from them stitches and them bruises from them
Right.
rocks and them sticks.
Right.
And you might have a little scar that you might be able to look at and be like, oh yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But let somebody tell you, oh, you had on them Payless shoes, or
Right.
you remember.
Wait, why out of all places Payless?
Because
that
when we
was
were
like-
younger, when we were younger, that was the thing. If
really
you
was.
had
Oh,
on
yeah.
Payless shoes,
That's true.
people
That's
would be
true.
like, you got your shoes on Payless?
Right.
I knew.
And see, mine was skin color, so I was always abused, or not even abused, but it was just
Attacked.
like I was always attacked because of that. And what was crazy is it was from people who were the same color. And it's just like, y'all don't see your
Right.
you don't see the
About that.
I know you see
About
me. I
that.
see you.
what's going on here.
I always got the, people always, when I was growing up, people would tell me I was trying to act white because I did my homework.
I like doing
And
homework. Thanks.
listened in class. No, I'm not gonna sit back here with the group of all the
And throw
quote
paper
unquote
planes.
black
Right.
kids
Sorry.
and pop my mouth and make all these beats.
Right.
First off, I can't do that.
Okay.
Second,
No
like,
rhythm whatsoever.
I want to learn.
Right.
I'm
I
not
like
trying to
what I'm
be,
doing.
in fifth grade for
Right.
3 years.
Right.
No.
I will say that, me talking about like,
Fifth grade for 3 years. Oh, go ahead.
It
Go
happens.
go ahead,
So-
Court.
a couple of weeks ago, this is therapy again. Every Monday at 10 a.m. girl.
Hey, shout out to your therapist.
Hey.
Listen, she's great. We really had to discuss the disappointments or the fears that I have as an adult
Right.
because of what I didn't get growing up, or I was always looking and searching for his approval. Because I knew that, financially he was always there. I could, the conversations were always, how's school? What's
Right.
going on with school?
Right.
Okay. What's your grades looking like? What's this, what's that? So I can hear the acceptance in his voice, or I can hear the disapproval in his voice. So it's like, okay, cool. Let me try this way. Let me try this. Let me try that.
Right.
And to this day, at 31, still having to pass that and get past that whole, I don't need, what is my fear of disappointing and what is going on with that. So I will say, with not having a father in the home and him, being, a call away, but still not giving me that emotional, that's what I missed. I missed that. Oh, you gonna love me regardless? Oh, well, shit.
Right.
I can mess
So-
up, I can do whatever. But just hearing that disappointment, even I was still crying at volleyball coaches and cheer coaches or whoever was a man in my life that was yelling their voice.
Because it was
To
a
this
trigger.
day, I'ma cry.
It was a trigger.
Don't yell
essentially.
at me.
I
Yeah.
have
Don't
the
yell at me.
opposite. For me,
Really?
it was like, I don't need nobody's approval.
Oh, girl.
Because
I
I
was
run
searching.
me. Because you have to understand, at
Yeah.
13, I
Yeah.
literally was like, how am I going to feed myself today?
Exactly.
Where am I going to live today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do I feel like going to school or am I
Right.
not? Because
Right.
I run me.
Right.
I literally
Right.
run me in every aspect of my
Right.
life. So I didn't have mother or father.
Okay.
Right? So for me, it was like, what does Leo want to do?
Right.
All the time.
Right.
All the time. And I hope it's a good
Right.
decision because if not, well, I guess I tried.
Yeah.
So
It's different.
I
It's-
didn't
it's
have to do
different.
that. I had to learn the opposite.
Okay.
And for me, it was a lot of self-work, therapy, a lot of self-growth, and a lot of relying on my tribe
Hey.
to help guide me through everything that I had learned as correct behavior.
Right.
because I didn't need anyone's approval, but at the same time, I had to learn, you have to be able to be understanding. You have to be able to let your guard down. You have to be vulnerable. You have to.
And it's hard. It's
so
hard when
hard.
you don't, I feel like with us, we are very fortunate to have the same group of friends.
Correct.
We didn't bounce around from friends to friends. I've had the same friends I've had. I don't have any new friends. And I mean, if they come around, hey y'all. But I mean, I've met you guys when I was 11, and the newest friends I've had, I met in 07, 08 in college. Right. So I don't have any new where it's like, okay, so you have to learn me. Right. Like y'all knew from the beginning what it was. Right. I mean, and one thing that I will say is that what I'm going to tell my son is that every family looks different. We have to. Correct. Yes. We accept, we love. Your best friend may have a one-parent home. It may have a two-parent home. It may have a grandfather.
And that does not make them better than you.
It's not, the love is the love. Whatever you have that's throwing, the love. And, it took my fiance to really explain to me, there are two types of people. There's ones who were raised in love, and there's ones who are raised in survival. And the mindset is different.
Correct.
Growing up. Correct. It's completely different. And, for us, we were all raised in love. So when you find somebody raised in survival mode, it's like,
that was me. That was different. It was so different.
And you have to be sympathetic of that. You have to kind of understand. And at 13, 14, you don't know what survival mode is. No. You don't know that. So, I mean, it takes a lot. And I will say that, having your tribe, your square, your village of family, of anybody that you can just be completely open and honest with, and just, but you have to get that guard down, because without them, I don't think that we would be able to even have these conversations today.
I don't know where I would be without. Honestly, for real, like real serious. As big as the family as I have, like, because everyone was so dysfunctional, and they all went with what was the norm. Right. Them being my tribe really, I can honestly say, changed so many aspects of my life. And they know this to be true, because they were the ones that were there when the nitty gritty happened. Right. When the nitty gritty happened. Okay. It's okay though. You learn.
Stories.
You learn.
We got
stories. Lord Jesus, absolutely.
Y'all got stories?
NDAs.
Bruh.
All the way
For
across.
days.
NDAs all the way across.
Bruh.
And it's so crazy though. It's so crazy because I feel like with how I was raised, I have both. My mom was super like, learn school, be supportive, all that jazz. And then my dad was definitely, because he's military, was definitely the do what you're supposed to do. Yes. But then if we didn't, it was just like, I almost think my dad's part Asian, because it was, for real, it was almost like
Asian?
We're shunned. Like, what do you mean you got like why do you have an A- and your partner has an A+? And in my mind, I'm like, well, I mean, I got an A.
A is A.
Right.
So for me, I know, especially like with having my old child, it's finding the balance.
Correct.
Because, you want your kids to feel like this is a loving environment, talk to me and all that jazz. But then also be like, okay, but I got to be about my business.
Okay.
And I feel like that for me as I became an adult was just finding that balance. Because I was just like, I'm smart. I know it. Okay, I messed up this time. Get over it.
Right.
And my parents, there was no room for error. Like, you should know it. And because, I mean, my parents literally they were the definition of 0 to 100. But I think it was just because they knew like what I was capable of.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of know how to navigate that.
Yeah.
Because it was like, honor roll, straight year for 7 years. First year, I get a bad grade on a progress report, which is not even permanent.
Okay.
The world ended.
And my mom's like, I'm going to send you off to live with your aunt because you're not listening. And I'm like, well, shoot.
Okay.
It's progress. I got 6 weeks to bring it up.
Right.
What is happening here? So I think with my parents, that's where I come from, is just getting a balance.
Okay.
Right.
Now, let me ask you all something. This is a question geared towards all three of you all. Based on the relationship you all had with your father or father figures, how did that affect your dating life?
Child, listen.
Oh, I'm getting deep. We getting deep tonight.
Those stories.
Ooh, I latched on. I was a latcher.
Okay.
I didn't have all of the little dating escapades.
Okay.
I latched on for years. So we just gonna get through it. I don't know what it is. But we gonna get through it. So I had 3, maybe 4, maybe. Like I was like, including this one.
Hold on, I gotta think about. Let me think.
But like true
if you didn't make the cut,
relationships.
you were not relevant.
Okay. Period.
Oh my God.
Period. But
I'm
I
thinking like 4.
I think 4,
I wouldn't
including
count the
no.
4th.
No, 5.
Damn, y'all count more than me.
I'm not gonna disclose names because we're going to protect the anonymous. But I got 5.
I gotta think. What's the 5th? Hold on.
I'm
We're calculating in my mind.
I can say your 5.
So-
I don't think, yeah.
You weren't around.
Okay, so let me ask you. So,
But I latched on.
okay, so Courtney, so it basically made you kind of like clingy, and you would hang on,
I would hang on through the
longer
rough.
than you should.
Through the rough.
Now, is it
We-
because of what
we
you
gonna
seen
get through
growing
it.
up? You wanted to have something
It
more
was-
like solid and concrete
I
as
think
in a
that's what it was.
relationship?
I think it was more so, I'm going to take all of your faults and all of your errors, and we just going to sit here and we going to get through it. 'Cause I know you want to be with me, I think. So,
I think.
so we just going to figure it out. I mean, because my thing was, you're telling me
Mm-hmm.
that you want to be here, but you're not showing me. And I had to really push the two.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like my father, you would say, yeah, I'm here. I'm physically here. But you're not showing me that. So I would latch onto the
So it was all
relationships.
words and no action.
Yeah. So I would
Okay.
latch onto the words. Like, well, he's
Right.
saying it.
It'll
Right.
it'll catch up.
But yeah,
It'll
know.
catch up.
Right.
Gotta get through. But, you know, I feel like growing up, I had to really understand that about myself.
Okay.
I had to say, okay, no, choose you first.
Right.
Let's talk is cheap.
Right.
Let's see what that walk is about, and that walk is different. So we out, and having to and it was that manipulation. A lot of it was that but I said I loved you, but I said but I'm trying. Okay, next time I'm gonna try, and it took one of our other friends. What are you doing? It took one of our other friends to really, and this is to this day, like I've had someone tell me before, you're like a butterfly. Butterflies don't see their wings. So when they don't see their wings, they don't understand the beauty and the aspect of who they are.
Yes.
So when that would happen, I had to really understand what butterfly I was.
Right.
And I couldn't do that in the same mindset that I was in as a child.
Okay.
I had to bury that child. I had to bury that disappointment and the expectations of what I wanted and who I want these people to be instead of what they're showing me. So it took a long time.
Right. And that's understandable. And let me say this, not too many women deal with the pain and the hurt and the baggage that comes from the childhood trauma of either having a bad father in your relationship or the good things of having a good dad in a relationship.
Because for me, it was more so of I got my 6 father figures. I don't need him. I'm straight over here, not knowing that the baggage of me trying to please him was still happening.
Right.
But it was happening in your relationships.
It was happening in my relationships. And it was still happening honestly, if we being real. Until I got pregnant. Like, I was still scared to tell him. Like,
Right.
and I've been with this man for 7 years. Like,
Right.
so it's just like, who really gonna check me at this point in time? I'm a 7 years.
It's been a minute.
Years, girl. 7 years.
Been a minute.
Child,
He
I'm
was
old.
there before I had 80.
Yeah.
I mean, me and you, it'll be 5 years for us in January.
No way. Really?
January
Together.
the 9th.
Old,
Yeah.
y'all. Is there a bro for that one? Because we old.
Bruh.
Man,
Please.
we old. Okay, rest in peace to our youth.
Yeah, goodbye
Lord.
20s.
Man.
It's okay. We walking into our seasonhood. Woo.
Because them 20s was great. I feel like we set her off.
Okay, I'm a hold off on you because I feel like you're gonna have something
Yes,
deep,
girl.
something deep to say. Shannon, how did your relationship with your dad affect your relationships?
For me,
Come on, talk to us, girl.
I feel like it just made me, because, well, for one, dating was just not a thing in my house.
Okay.
My parents were, every year the age changed. It was like, oh, you can date when you're 16. Then it's like, oh no, once you're grown. And then it's just like, well, when you're not living here. It's always something different. Right. I ain't had time. So me being the independent person that I was like, I'm gonna just do what I wanted to do. And I was a very thoughtful child. I thought every action through, every reaction. My T's was triple crossed and my I's were double dotted. Like, so I figured out to do what I wanted to do, and
how to do it.
Dated who I wanted to, and I always gave everybody the rundown. Look,
Right.
Okay. I'm not supposed to be dating you, but this is what's happening. So these are the if we on the phone and they hang up, don't call me back.
Right. This is why.
Like, if we're gonna meet here,
this is when you was like what, 17, 18?
Like 15, 16.
Okay.
If we're gonna meet at the movies, my friends will let you know if I'm coming. Don't call me.
Right.
Like, I had all these things in place because I wasn't supposed to be dating.
Your dad was very strict, but you adapted essentially.
But then this is the crazy thing. My dad, now that I'm older, it was really more my mom. My dad was. Oh, he had the thought of like, just don't hurt her. If you happy, I'm good.
Yeah.
Because the times when people did come to the house, like when I got older, my dad would just do the typical dad, like, hi.
Right.
How are you? Where are you going? Be back at a decent time type deal. So then as I got older, it wasn't more or less like I wouldn't say I was dating my dad, because I don't really feel like anyone I've ever talked to was my dad. No. But I got so used to that, like, secret life that even with people I date, like, nobody came to my house. Nobody met my family, because it was just like, yeah, that's unnecessary. Yeah. Like, I like you, you like me. That's all that matters.
Go to my house.
Right. Not even. We gonna go to your house, okay?
Right.
Don't ask me for my address because you don't need it.
You don't need it.
And so, as I got older, I did notice more or less how I dated affected my parents.
Okay.
Because my dad, he would kind of ask, but not really want to know. But I'm gonna ask you because I'm your dad. So I'll be like, oh, like, who is this? Or so the few people that did come around, one was very challenged, but, rest in peace, hopefully. That's not nice. I'm sorry.
You can't
I'm sorry.
say that about people.
I'm just kidding. He is alive and well and fearfully made in God. But so then as I did start bringing people around,
it's bad because we know who we're seeing.
Oh my God.
We know each other too long.
But as people did start coming around, then I would say I started to kind of notice. I'm hot. I'm just hitting the thing. I can hear
it's hitting the.
You
can hear it in the mic.
But so as I got older, and then my dad would meet people, my dad became more vocal. So he would tell me like, "Oh, he seems nice," or I don't know if I really like him, but he would always end everything with that. But if he makes you happy and he's not like being hurtful or anything, then I'm good. Because I remember one time this guy, he didn't do anything to me. I actually really did hit my arm on a cabinet. And I bruised very easily. And I came to my parents' house and my arm is purple at this point. And my dad just was like, "What is going on? What happened to your arm?" And I was like, "I hit a cabinet." Like, I really did.
Right.
Like,
I mean, but let me just say this. Let me say this in your dad's defense. Any good dad, if your daughter come around you with a bruise, no matter, I don't care, cabinets, you gonna double check. Right. Because think about it, how many women get abused and then they don't want to say something. Right. So they say, "Oh, I ran into the edge of the door or something like that," when they were actually going home being abused. Right. So that's a real thing for like a dad to double check. Like, look, you sure was it like a cabinet or was it him?
Right. Right. No, I definitely appreciate it, and I do feel like as my dad became a little more vocal, it made me choose people that I would date.
Okay.
So it was like, we grown. You had your hookups, and I kept them in that place. You're a hookup. That's it. And whatever.
I didn't marry.
Life before you, D. Life before you.
Lord.
I'll take it to my grave, lower it to the soil.
And then the people that were
We're going to go ahead and cut her camera off.
But then the people that I was like, okay, you're serious, you're about something, those are the people that came to my home where I met my parents.
Right.
So I feel like it shaped me in that way of just more or less being more mindful of who I brought into my family circle.
Right.
There's really only like one creeper that came in there, but that was under false pretenses.
You and these names for these people tonight.
But he was a
One
creeper.
dead, another one is a creeper. What's going on?
But we're not saying nobody's name, so it's okay.
Yes. He was a creeper, though.
It's
you
an
know.
He
inside
was
joke.
in her defense, he was a creeper.
Really though.
Since you creeping on into the part, now this question applies to you. So how did your relationship with your dad affect your dating, or is affecting?
Not anymore, thank God. Jesus, okay, hallelujah.
When Jesus said.
Okay. But that took years. That took years of hard. They all know this.
Therapy.
Hard work.
She had friend therapy, real therapy.
I had friend therapy, real
Right.
therapy,
Right.
like
In the middle of the street therapy, listen.
hey,
In the
street
middle
therapy.
of the.
Sometimes
It be
you
like
gotta
that. You gotta
it be
just
like
set
that.
somebody
like,
straight in the middle of the street.
It really be like that. You have to understand, I grew up in the hood. I really did. I grew
Right.
up in
Sometimes you gotta
the
meet people
hood.
in their level for them to understand.
Correct.
Like,
we're not gonna stay here.
We're not
but
gonna
I'ma
stay
come
here,
here
but
to
I'm
help
gonna
you
get
get
here.
from here.
Right.
Correct.
I gotta drag you from here.
Literally.
I gotta get there.
Drag.
Come on.
It's a drag.
Y'all just being all kind of abusive. Physically, with your words. Just y'all on the road tonight. Like, what's going
But
on?
it's real life. It really was. And I think for me, like, because my father, he got clean, I want to say, 16, 17 when I moved to Mobile, was it? Right? I moved to Moreno Valley with him for 6 months. And he got clean. And I lived there with my other siblings and my stepmom. And I was dating my kid's father at the time. But I was still running me because I was used to it, right? I'm like 16, 17. You can't tell me nothing. I've grown up on my own. And I had a 4.1 GPA.
Right.
I did really well in school. I've always been book smart. I had an early entrance to NYU. And I was like, I got this. I'm good.
Right. And you know what? Hold on to what you were about to say. But let me say this. It's funny that most children, and it doesn't matter if it's a girl or a boy, that come through a lot of harsh backgrounds and like early beginnings in childhood, they excel in life a lot because
Yes.
I don't know if it's that
I had to
everything that they're going
overcompensate.
through, they
It's
kind of
overcompensation.
strive
I
and it becomes like a
overcompensate.
drive. Like, I went through this and I was
Your whole life
abused.
becomes fight or flight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's really what it was. I was always in survival mode
Okay.
because I had to be. And I knew what it took to get out of it. And I was like,
Okay.
I'm almost at that finish line. I'm almost there, right? Almost got this. And my grandmother, she was my only rock. She was my only sense of normalcy,
Okay.
aside from my tribe. Okay. And she passed that year. And when she passed, everything unraveled for me.
Okay.
Found out I was pregnant with my son. I hadn't even graduated high school. And it was like, what am I going to do? I had worked so hard to get to where I was.
Okay.
And now what? And I decided I'm Christian. And I don't believe in that. So I was going to keep my son. And I lost my college ride. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I confronted my father. That was my solution in my mind.
Right.
And I confronted him in the kitchen in front of everybody. And I told him, did you know? And that's when that whole situation happened. So when that happened, I moved in with my boyfriend. He, within like a few months, became abusive. And I hid it from everyone. Everyone. I didn't tell nobody nothing. And I realized that I started repeating a cycle that I grew up in. So I left. I was maybe 4 months pregnant. And I took off to New York. I didn't tell nobody. I literally packed my stuff in a car because, again, that's my personality. I grew up having to be fierce and having to make a decision and say, this is what's good for me, and I'm going to do it, period. So I left, and I called them like 2 weeks later, and I was like, oh, by the way, I'm in New York.
What?
New York.
Just FYI, I drove across the states. I drove 3 days
California.
pregnant From California.
Now, let me ask you this, because I feel like it's important. With all that your dad put you through, like growing up, have you taken that step to forgive him?
I had to, because in order for me to change as a woman, as a mother,
Okay.
because I didn't want to live the life of flight or flight. I didn't
Right.
want to live in survival mode. No, like I worked hard to put myself through college, to get a good job, to go through therapy, and to be normal, to learn what it is to love somebody and to be loved, and to give my children the life that they need, that they
Right.
deserve.
Right.
And I had to let that go.
Right.
It took a lot of work, but I had to let it go. And it wasn't just from a him aspect. It was from his friend's aspect, from my mother aspect, from everything, but mostly him, because he was like, just like she said, I wanted to overcompensate, but I never did because I never allowed myself to.
Right. And it's a good thing that you did forgive. You know,
Yes.
forgiveness, we don't talk about it much, especially in the African American community.
Correct.
Because we feel like when you forgive someone, it makes you weak and
Correct.
caving in to what they did to you. But I say this all the time: forgiveness is not for them; it's for you.
Yes.
You know,
I didn't even know they forgive.
in order for you to move on from a situation, from someone and what they've done to you, you have to forgive them.
Right.
Not for them, for you.
Yes.
Because the last thing you want is for somebody to do you wrong and you can't sleep at night, but they sleeping.
Right.
Right.
I mean, come on now.
Like old folks
for
say.
You'd be surprised how
But-
many people would do someone
Right.
wrong and then they get the best sleep in the world
And you're
and
over
you're
here
staying up
causing
at
serial
night
killers
behind
doing
what
every
they
day.
did to you.
But for me, my
Seriously.
thing was I forgave him, but I would not let him in, period.
And don't
Because-
feel bad for that.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Don't-
oh, no,
yeah.
I never did. Because I was like, no, I'm raising my kids. They went to a private school. They went to a privileged school.
Right.
They had a great education. I had a great education. I had a good job. Like, everything was cool. It
Right,
was
right.
good. I was really in a good place. And then I came back, and like I said, I kind of got tricked into him coming around, but that's okay. Because I said, you know what? I'm going to give you this opportunity because I can't, just like you disassociated the two, I realized that because I had worked so hard, I had to disassociate my childhood and my upbringing and my relationship with him and his relationship with them. So I said, you know what? If you want to be a part of their life, by all means, proceed. But best believe I'm going to be right there to watch every step of the way.
Right.
Because I run this.
Right.
I want what is best for my children, and they're going to get it, period. Whatever I got to do, I got to do.
Right.
So for me, it was protecting them, their physical, their mental, and protecting my physical and mental. And the moment I realized that my father was starting to use drugs again, and he was starting to say things, say that verbal abuse, those verbal comments, I was like, no,
You gotta go.
I'm good. It's time to go.
Right.
And it went from it's time to go to now we simply don't speak. And I do not bring them around. And we were just talking about this because at the end of the day, their well-being is always my concern and my focus, period. And my well-being and my mental health because I work too hard
Right.
to bring any kind of that toxicity back into my life.
And that's
Like,
the beauty about
we're
being
not
an
doing that.
adult. Like,
Right.
we can choose now.
Correct.
You know, we can
Correct.
really be like, nope, bye.
Exactly.
Change my number. You'll never find
Right.
it.
Right.
I'm not even gonna change my number. I will treat you like a Jehovah's Witness. She could be knocking at the door, and I will not
I
come
will
here.
not.
Dear, why Jehovah Witness?
Because people don't answer the door. It's the truth.
They watch from
We're
the
just
window.
not even gonna lie.
They
It's
watch
the
from the
truth.
window.
You know, but let me say this to you, and we do have to wrap it up because we're past the hour mark.
Oh my God.
Right, I know,
That's
but we will come
had
back
to.
we're gonna have more conversations and we're gonna talk about a lot of things. I already told Shannon I want to have a whole like series about like relationships.
Oh, I got tea.
Hey.
Yeah, but we're gonna talk about relationships and a whole bunch of other things. And even for those of you that are watching this podcast right now, if you have like different topics you would like us to talk about and discuss, you can DM me. You can write it in this chat right now.
Only DM topics.
Wife has spoken. Try her.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
no,
I'm not kidding, but I didn't mean
we
it.
know you're not playing.
I'm not.
We know you're not playing. We know you're protective when you want to be. We know. But no, I do want to wrap this up, and we will continue this another day. But I do want to leave it leave you all with this, and this is for you, Leo, since I feel like growing up you had such a traumatic experience, and even with you sharing with us and being so transparent today, and I don't know why I'm doing this, but I feel like God is like giving me these words to tell you right now. Don't settle for less than your heart desires.
Right.
You know, just because your dad was not the man you needed him to be, God is going to send you the king that you need. You know, and I want you to, if you will, you know, because I don't know where, you know, one thing about social media, it goes to places that no one can go at the same time.
Right.
Like right now, somebody can be watching us in China and in Brazil and right here in America all at the same time. But is there anything you would like to tell your dad?
No, actually, I feel like honestly, I have done so much work and put so much effort and prayer, and tears and blood and sweat into everything I needed to say to him, into becoming the person that I am, to letting go, to giving it to God, to just being in this place that I am. I'm completely comfortable with whatever happens. I literally have no words for this man, because at the end of the day, I wish him well. I really do. I wish him the best. I hope and I pray that he heals himself mentally, because that's what it's going to take in order to heal everything else about his life. But I have given it to God and realized that I'm okay. I am good. Like, my kids are good. My career is good. I'm good. Like, I'm cool. So, no, I'm really at just a great place. And I thank God and I thank my friends for it, because they really became my family. Right. And if it wasn't for all the above, I don't know where I would be.
That's good.
Blueprint is what you're not supposed to have.
No, seriously. Courtney, is there anything you would like to, you know, tell your dad or your fiance?
She cannot say it on the podcast.
I'm still in therapy.
She's working on it.
You say you said it.
I'm still in therapy.
You're still in therapy?
Because my thing is for me, I am one and only child. Two, I'm a Leo. So once you cut, you cut. You know, so I mean, it's what is that? You fool me once,
shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
All right, listen. 3 times, load the chopper. Good.
Cat. You got a squad for a reason.
Load the chopper. Let it rain.
Now I feel like I'm going to have to go back and put a disclaimer up at the beginning of the video. This video contains graphic content.
But seriously, I feel like, you know, through life, it's definitely a trial and error. Okay. And you're going to learn what works and what doesn't. And don't think that at 18 that you're grown.
Correct.
I'm learning stuff at 31. Correct. You know, I'm learning.
I'm half grown.
What you know, like, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm still learning a lot about myself.
Right.
You know?
And see, that's the thing about that whole grown terminology. We need to just throw that away.
All.
You know, because I think it's more
that's
so
millennial on up thing.
Right.
Because I never told my parents that.
But see, let me say this. Like, it's not about the whole statement. Oh, I'm grown. What should be said is I'm growing.
Yeah,
because
we're forever growing.
We're forever growing. Like,
and if you're not, that's a problem.
And don't be afraid to admit that somebody either younger or older than you taught you something.
Correct.
I mean, we live in a generation now to where can't nobody tell nobody nothing. You can't even for me it's crazy. Me as a father, I know back in the days, probably 50 years ago, I probably would be able to chastise somebody else's child, you know, and from a pure heart standpoint, and let them know, like, oh, you're not supposed to be doing that, stand on the porch. You know, we hear those things all the time, you know, but let you say something to somebody's child now. Even like as a dad, why you saying something? But it's just, I feel like
those be the main ones running them up.
Oh my God! But I feel like we need to, you know,
that's another conversation.
Take back that village aspect from like being a dad and a father, because I mean, being a parent is a beautiful thing. You know,
but the reality is you need people.
You do.
Yeah.
You need your tribe. You have
need
to.
other
Right.
people.
Yeah.
You can't
My
just
village
be
raised me for
you
sure.
and your kid or whatever, you and your spouse, your kid, however your dynamics is. It doesn't work.
No.
Right.
Because there are going to be times where it don't really matter what you say. Your kid is just not going to hear you. They're not going to want to hear you.
Right.
But they'll listen to that aunt or that
Yeah.
grandmother or that that's telling the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But people hear different. It's just like
Yeah.
with learning. Everyone does something different.
And I think it's that self-support too, though, to that encouragement that you get from your tribe to tell you, like, nobody is perfect and nobody's going to be a perfect parent. And we are still all growing.
I learned that
So,
in my
like,
entire life.
it's okay to make a mistake, but you know what? You grow from it. You learn from it. You keep progressing.
Exactly.
Right.
You
My
know?
mom told me all the time, if you can't come to me, you got this many people that you can't come to.
Right,
You
right.
better choose one.
Correct.
Like, you need to go to somebody in your village. That's why I picked this village for you. So you can trust, and I'm trusting them to instill the values that we have as a unit.
Right.
If I can't, if you don't feel like, okay, I'm scared to call, tell my mom, okay, let me call my godmommy.
Right.
Like, let me call my aunt, let me call my uncle.
Exactly.
There's certain things that my mom didn't know until later, but my uncles knew first.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have to have that village. And I guess I will say this, like, for me to tell my father or anyone who's listening who, had that who was building that village, you're going to be okay. You really are.
Oh, facts.
And you
Facts.
it's, you may be heartbroken from that little girl that wanted that father. And I had to bury her. I had to
Right.
literally, like, have a whole funeral for her. She had to go.
Not a
Because-
whole.
a-
No,
a
I
whole
understand.
funeral. Because
A whole
literally her and my expectations of life now were completely skewed. So I had to bury her and all of the things that I thought I needed as
Right.
a child and what I needed from him, and I didn't get because I was carrying that into adulthood. I was hurting from that. I was like, screw you. And that's how I was looking at a lot of men. Okay, cool. Bet. You can't do this? Then cool. Next. And nothing. Like, and be done. And I'd be like, well, you can't even, who are you? I'm sorry.
Right.
I don't see you right now. It's kind of weird, gray, but that was still, again, something that I had to learn. You have to explain, you hurt me. You have to, this is what I needed from you. You couldn't give that to me. And I have to express that because sometimes their life, and like I said earlier, they don't have that room. They don't know how to love you the way that you need to be loved. And I wish, I can't wait for the day that I can, ask my son, what do you need from mommy? Like, what do you need for me to be a better mommy to you?
Right. And you know what?
Those
One
conversations
thing,
are so key.
right? And you know one thing.
I do.
Let me say this.
I have
One
them.
thing we have to acknowledge: we're dealing with a lot of generational curses, type of thing.
Absolutely.
Like you'd be
Absolutely.
surprised how much when you look at your family, like heritage, the things you going through.
Toe up.
Your dad,
Listen.
your dad. No, seriously, your dad went through it.
Yep.
Your grandfather went
Yep.
through it.
And
His
we don't
dad,
know until we're adults.
we don't know until we're adults, and we start having these adult conversations because
Yeah.
now our families are
Yeah.
opening up to us.
Yeah.
That we're like, wait a minute, so
My father
you
didn't apologize till he was 28. I was
See?
28.
I still
But
don't
see,
have an
it's
apology.
like so many times where they're battling
Yeah.
with all these addictions and sicknesses, and like for instance, how you said like your dad he was financially there for you, but he wasn't emotionally there for you. That may have been his story with his dad.
Absolutely was.
See what I
Absolutely
mean?
was. And it
Even-
was more like, and his excuse was, well, I didn't have it, so what's the issue? And it's just
And-
like, you broken, bro.
Right? No, seriously.
Right.
No,
No,
seriously.
it really is. It's a cycle. It
Right.
really is a cycle.
And like in my house, it was the opposite. My mom did everything opposite of her mom because she did not agree with how she raised. So she was like, I'm not doing any of this for my
Right.
kids.
It's a
Right.
fork in the road. And I say
Yeah.
this every day.
Forky. I don't know why I think about Forky every time I hear Fork.
It's literally, and I've said it to my fiance. I say it to my family all the time. You got two options. You either go the same way your parents did with you,
Whole
or
different
you
feel.
run from it.
Yep.
Right,
You
right.
got two options.
Right.
You can take, you can go down the same route, and you can say, hey, this is the only thing I knew. I don't know any different.
Right.
I can go down that same route, or you can say like, no, I'm running from this. I hated everything about this.
Exactly.
Or like me, you can choose what you want.
Exactly.
Like,
Because I feel like
I'm gonna
our
make my
But that
generation-
takes a certain level of strength.
I feel
gotta
like,
get there.
I feel like
It
our
has- you
generation
have
of
to.
parents that's where we're at.
Yeah.
A lot of us are like, okay, this we did like from our childhood, this
Right.
we did not.
Right.
And it is definitely, it causes, what's a good word? It causes our parents to sometimes be like, well, what are you doing? I didn't do that.
Disagree.
Yeah.
And you really want to be like, I know you didn't. This is why I am.
Right.
But you were raised in the 70s, let's be honest.
Hello.
And you know what? And another thing too, we have to be patient sometimes with ourselves. I don't think that always happens. I think we beat ourselves up so
Especially
much
as moms.
because
Because I feel like as
yeah,
moms,
because
we're painted as this like superhero. We do everything.
Yeah.
Gotta keep it right. You know, I'm gonna
Yes.
go to work, cook dinner, take out the trash, wash
I can
all
do it
the
all.
clothes.
Right.
You see
And
that?
never
And
get
it's like-
tired. What do
And then
mean?
you
But
know,
see,
and
like-
oh, dad, yeah, he just comes home and mom has everything ready, and then he just goes back to
Right,
work.
right.
And it's like these are different times for one, and then it's different dynamics, and it's like being okay with, okay, yeah, I did the laundry and didn't fold it, but it's all right.
Okay. And then if I do maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, like, and I'm gonna be okay.
Right.
And it's like I feel like our moms, our grandparents, like,
It's different.
yeah, they
so
don't
different.
understand, like, what you mean you put your husband's food on a paper plate? Because I'm not doing dishes today.
Listen.
And that fork and that plastic fork and that plastic knife, it's
And
gonna
see,
work.
and let me
It's still gonna work the same
My
way.
daddy to
And
this
let me
day
s-
will say he is allergic to paper plates.
But see, let me say this, and I'm a different type of dude because I don't care if it's in a paper plate, Tupperware.
I
If
mean,
the food slap, if it slap, it slap.
most of the guys that in our
Like younger
age
generation
don't.
are okay with that.
But it is
older,
definitely it is
you
definitely
need that
older.
ceramic.
And I was
plate.
literally just watching a video where this girl was saying how her grandmother would chastise her when she would come to their house, and she would put the dinner on a paper plate for her husband. And she's just
Well,
like,
but
you don't have plates.
Well, see, let me say this, and we really need to wrap it up because we're almost at an hour and a half.
Okay.
So, and we, like I said, we'll have more conversations so we'll be able to go deeper on different set of topics and discussions. But in reference to that, see, the world has gotten so far away from the whole family dynamics to where things that we look at, like for instance, I'm going to be completely honest, and y'all three may beat me up for saying this.
Go ahead.
Please, y'all may beat me up for saying this, but my thing is this. I don't have a problem with what the grandmother said to the girl because you got to understand the time that she grew up in.
Yeah.
Men, all they did was work.
Right.
Bring home
So
the
for
bacon.
and bring home the bacon.
Right,
It was a
correct.
completely different time frame.
Correct.
So for the grandmother, her thing was this. I understand you may not want to do the dishes, but your husband is out all day. At least you can do is put the man a meal on a nice plate. It has nothing to do with, the dishes and stuff like that. The grandmother's looking at it from the perspective of there's a certain respect level
Right.
that a man should have from his queen.
I'll give you that.
There's a certain level of respect that a king should give his queen.
Correct.
So from the grandmother's perspective, she's like, and this is during that time. Her mindset hasn't changed from the 30s and the 40s and the
Right.
50s.
Oh, of
She's
course.
like,
And they'll never change.
it'll
Right,
never
at
change.
all,
So
at all.
the grandmother's mind, she's like, you don't have to do nothing but take care of the kids. Which I'm not saying it's not a job because that's the job.
That is.
Take care of the home, but think about all of the responsibility. I'm talking about a real man. I'm not talking about these play men. I'm talking about a real man. When a real man is a real man, that means all the weight is on his shoulders.
Right.
Like I just told her today, me being a new husband, I've been married for a year now. Just the just the level of responsibility that's on me. And it's funny, all my friends are married. I look at my generation of friends now; they're like all married, and we talk about these things and being dads and all the weight being on our shoulders. So it does feel good to have that respect. Because, to be honest with you, as a black man, we're not going to get the respect that we
society,
desire
yes.
from society.
You're not.
So
You're not.
if we don't get it at home,
time of
it
day.
makes us
Right.
the appreciation doesn't feel
Right.
genuine if I can't
Right.
come home and
Right.
it's not saying my foot is on your neck, you're beneath me, because I said it in the last episode. It takes a strong person to follow somebody.
Oh
To be submissive, you're
Listen,
absolutely right.
listen.
To
You're
be
absolutely
submissive,
right.
it takes a strong person.
Right.
But we're not gonna go there. We're going into a whole other conversation.
No, I think
Yeah.
that's right.
We'll be
I
like,
We're
hear
going to a
you.
whole other
Okay.
conversation.
But honestly,
But
it
we'll
really
let's
does.
we'll
It
wrap
really
this
does.
up, and I'm gonna say thank you all for joining on this
Yes.
episode 3 of this podcast. Give these ladies a hand if y'all watching it, and we'll talk more about this conversation.
I take Cash App and Venmo.
Oh my God!
I just want cookies.
I just want that pizza in that kitchen.
Cookies
That's what I
works,
want.
though.
Okay, I'm hungry.
Right, but no, I appreciate you all for coming in on this podcast, and we'll have, like I said, we'll have another day where we'll talk about family dynamics and just with things that we require and things that we don't necessarily have to have in our relationships.
Right.
Right.
But
And
for
definitely
every
things that we don't even know that we bring it into.
that too,
Mm.
that too. But we'll
the hidden baggage.
the hidden back.
That you don't
We'll-
even be knowing about.
Right, but we'll get there. But I want to thank these ladies for being on here, and make sure you all please share this to your page so that somebody may grow, learn, and heal from this conversation. And don't forget to like this and subscribe to the YouTube channel at My Life God's Way, as well as on Instagram, Facebook, and we're coming next with Patreon to where you'll be able to have exclusive things, and I might even be dropping some merch. So just put right, it's lit.
Okay.
But just hit the like button, and I appreciate